Welcome to On Texas Football. It's time for the defensive side of the equation. Breaking down the Texas defensive class, we're going to address today whether or not Texas met the needs, not just address the overall athleticism, because Texas clearly, with a number one caliber class, whether they end up there or not, certainly has the overall athleticism and ability of a really good class. But the question is, did Texas address its needs? We're going to talk about that. Talk about some of the individual players as well. We did that with the offense yesterday. We're going to do that with the defense today, guys. Let's start with defensive end, if you don't mind. Two of them signed by the Longhorns on Wednesday. They were not only Lance Jackson out of Texarkana's Pleasant Grove, but also Smith Orogbo out of A-Leaf Hastings down in the Houston area. Jerry, what do you think of the two defensive ends that the Longhorns grabbed, and are these guys enough for what Texas needed in this recruiting class?
They're definitely enough, coupled with the 2024 recruiting class. I mean, with Colin Simmons, Zena, right? I mean, they're building that depth and building different body types and different skill sets. I think Lance Jackson could be an absolute star. 6'6", one day, 280, 285-pound power in with pass rush ability. That's absolutely perfect for the NASCAR package when you need a big end to spin inside and play a three-tech type, or even play over the ball a little bit in the NASCAR package if you want to do that. Texas didn't have anybody like that this year in the NASCAR package, and Lance Jackson has got a chance to be an elite player, and he is an elite prospect because he is just so athletic and can really run, and it's just changed the direction for that size. And the before and after photos are going to be amazing of him from when he arrives at Texas in January till the first game of the season in September. I think he's going to look a lot different. I think his body's absolutely going to blow up in a college strength and conditioning program. Smith Orogbo, the thing is, these guys are totally different. Smith Orogbo is the pass rush specialist. Now, he had knee surgery. You hope he comes back all the way from that. We don't think he'll be taking part in spring. Should be ready in August. But he needs a year to stack 25, 30 pounds on his frame, in my opinion. But you can't coach those first two steps and that ability to change direction, those long arms. And he has some hand punch for a young kid that's only played football really 3.5 years. So there's a lot to work with there. Texas got two of the best edge prospects in the country and signed one of the best two-person edge classes in college football. And I think Texas hit a home run the year after hitting a home run.
Yeah, they went back to back. CJ, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll start with Smith Orogbo. Jerry, you mentioned that quickness off the ball. I mean, we've seen what quickness can do for quote-unquote undersized edge rushers, right? He's not Colin Simmons, but I think that there are some traits that you can take from Colin Simmons and say there are certainly some similarities there, especially with those first two steps. That quickness off the edge, the bend as well. Of course, all depends on whether or not he gets back to 100% pre-knee injury. But again, Lance Jackson, what's not to love? He's the prototypical guy that you want on the strong side. I mean, 6'6", 275 pounds, can get up to 285, whatnot. The body reshaping, whatever you want to call it. That's a heck of a football player. I think his ceiling is very, very high. And again, there's versatility there. You can throw him outside of the 7. He can play the 5. He can spin down to a 3-eye. A NASCAR package, who knows where they'll use him, because you're going to have all the edge rushers off the outside. You throw him inside to a center or a guard, and good luck. I mean, that's a heck of a football player at that size, with that length, at that speed and athleticism. Texas, again, really, really impressive job early on with these two edge rushers.
Hey, Bobby, and your Alabama and Georgia's, their best teams, they may not have had somebody as tall as Lance Jackson, but they had players similar. Travon Walker, Georgia. Go back through Bama. They all had that big power end that was also a really good athlete. Texas just got one of those guys.
I said this in the live stream on Wednesday. I think he's a bonus-sized Barron Sorrell.
Yeah.
He's just as athletic, maybe a little bit more so even. He's a little bit bigger, and he's going to be bigger long-term. Now, the question is, will Lance Jackson actually go out and work as hard as Barron Sorrell? I mean, that's really a factor that we all got to consider. We hope that the culture at Texas is such that right now that Sark's created it where, the cream rises to the top, right? And so they're all going to have to maximize their talent to get on the field. But that's what I think they got out of Lance Jackson with a little bit more athleticism. You know, now is he a stronger worker? Is he that kind of guy? The one that people talk about, which guys do you like? If you were to ask me about Smith-Orogbo, the thing he has is that wiry athleticism that is just hard to block. You don't see people, and he's got long arms, long levers. You do not see people get square on him blocking. You just don't see it because he's able to duck under. He's able to extend his hands. Even though he's smaller, Jerry, he's naturally strong.
Yeah.
Add that together with athleticism. That's, I don't know what his upside is. It's pretty dang high.
Yeah.
Is my point. Right. And so I really like these two. And to y'all's point, Jerry, yours in particular, they went back to back.
Yeah.
They hit two fastballs down the middle, 95 mile an hour, and they hit it about 405.
Yeah.
The left center. So that's how I feel on that. Let's talk about defensive tackle because this one is a TBD grade at some point because Texas is still after a guy in Georgia, Manchester, Georgia. Justice Terry, he announces on Friday. We do believe that Texas is not a long shot, but let's see if Texas is able really to go into Georgia and grab somebody. But the two they got were extraordinarily good or are extraordinarily high-level prospects. Josiah Sharma out of Folsom, California, Myron Charles out of Port Charlotte, Florida. Two ends of the coast, two ends of the country, right? Meet together in Austin. My question for you guys, I don't know if Texas has signed two as talented defensive tackles in the same class in a long, long time.
Yeah.
They've signed one, and then some other – like, I don't know that they've signed two this talented. The issue that we will address and needs to be addressed is it enough? I mean, Texas only signed two last year, only one the year before. They're going to lose four to graduation this year, and two others might be in the portal. So they're going to lose six, and they only signed two. Jerry?
Yeah, they didn't feel – if they had been able to hold on and Mbop too, I would have been really happy with that trio, right? But now they got a little more work to do. It makes 2026 recruiting very fun for Kenny Baker, though, at that position. Let's get that out of the way because he can say, look, we signed two last year. I mean, most people are saying we signed three or four when they're talking to 26 kids. But I agree. I think these two guys are supremely talented players with very high NFL upsides. They have the SEC size, which Texas was looking for guys with SEC size. That's the one thing. So they were going to kind of shrink their own talent pool, looking for some certain height, weights, and frames to build upon long term. So they kind of shrunk that talent pool a little bit of the 6'6" guys who are really, really good football players. They kind of didn't go after many of those guys. Like a Floyd Guidry at TCU that signed with TCU. So they kind of went for the bigger bodied guys for the SEC. And that's what I think you're going to see Texas do moving forward. But I love the two guys they got. It puts a little more pressure on Texas in the portal, which I'm sure we'll be talking about in the next few weeks. But I love the two guys they got for Kenny Baker's first class. And I'm here to say this. If Kenny Baker hadn't gotten a late start, guys, if he hadn't come from the NFL, and he had more time to kind of go around in Georgia and get to see some of those guys in 25 class, I think he could have won out for a Walter Mathis or somebody like that. He just didn't have time. He came from the NFL. He didn't have time. He didn't get the chance to go out and see all those guys like the rest of the staff did in January. So he was working a little bit from behind the eight ball in this class. Let's see what he does with the full 365 on this class.
What about you, CJ? You like this class of defensive tackles, and was it enough?
Yeah, I think you would have liked to have seen three in this class, and shoot, you still might, right? And that other might or maybe is the number one defensive lineman in the country. So sure, this grade might be a little bit different. About 72 hours, we'll have to come back and see. But last year you wanted three, you had three, you ended up with two. This year you probably wanted four, you wanted three, you got down to two. You still could end up with three. So to Jerry's point, the portal is absolutely still going to remain an option for defensive linemen for next fall and even in the spring. But with the two, and this is where I wanted to make my point, You got one that's 6'4", 295 with Myron Charles. You got another that's 6'4 and a half, 330, 325 with Josiah Sharma. You talk about SEC size in the middle of the defensive line. That's pretty darn good. And back to the point of, have you signed a class with 2 defensive linemen of this talent, of this size? No, probably not. Not since Sark's been here. The closest I could point to is 2020 with Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton, but it's taken them 5 years to get to where they are right now. And, of course, it's a really high level of football, but I think these two have a quicker path to that elite level of interior play, which is encouraging. Texas just has to find the other bodies to go inside with them because, of course, you'd like to have that room stocked and ready for whenever you see a departure early NFL guy. What might not happen anyway else, but I do like these two on the interior.
I will say this, like Alfred Collins is more of a 5/3 than he is a 0-3. And what I mean by that is a tackle / end, strong side end, as opposed to a nose tackle / defensive tackle. These two guys are both interiors.
Yeah.
They're both 0s or 3s.
Yeah.
Right? They're not going to kick out to a 5. Lance Jackson might kick down to a 3. Lance Jackson is more similar to Alfred Collins in some ways, right? And so what I mean by that is you might get quicker help on the interior because Alfred Collins played when he was young, but he wasn't necessarily good on the interior when he was young.
Right.
It's taken a long time for him to gain the necessary weight. These guys may be able to help a little bit sooner. So I do think that's a positive. And I do think they're more natural defensive tackles, interior guys than either Broughton or Collins, by the way, regardless of recruiting rankings. Broughton himself, not a natural interior guy because of his lower body necessarily, right? So
yeah.
Good bringing that up, CJ. But that would be a comparison that I would make and kind of go there. All right, before we get going to linebackers, I want to say thank you to our sponsor. That sponsor is Jody Reynolds, and she is a personal jeweler known as the Carrot Concierge. With an office right there in Westlake, Jody focuses on helping men purchase the special gift for the woman in your life. You can use a QR code on the screen to see even more or visit her on her website or Instagram, thecarrotconcierge.com. Jody prides herself in providing personal service. She takes the extra steps to make sure your lady gets exactly what she wants. And because she doesn't have the overhead of a storefront, she often can get higher quality inventory at much lower prices, as much as 30% less. If you're looking for something special for a birthday or an anniversary, and with Christmas really right around the corner, right at 20 days now, guys, Christmas coming. Jody has a variety of bracelets, rings, necklaces, and more, all beautiful jewelry, all personalized for you and yours. Check out thecarrotconcierge.com, visit her website, or give her a call or text and take care of that special someone in your life. Linebackers, guys, 2 of them. Elijah Bo Barnes is one of the leaders of this class, in my opinion, made a decision relatively early. And then they took a guy, Jonathan Cunningham, Jerry, that you went up and saw in person out in North Crowley. He is one of the lower rated players in this class, yet you don't see him that way at all. What do you think of these 2 linebackers? And did that address the needs of this Texas team?
So, by the way, last class, Ty Anthony Smith was in that boat. Was one of the fringe 4-star guys that wasn't but one of the higher ranked guys in this class. Very similar frames. We'll see if he turns into the player Ty Anthony is. Ty Anthony's just gone beyond even what the Texas staff thought when they brought him in. If Jonathan Cunningham does that, watch out. I think Bo Barnes is an absolute stud football player. I think he can play Mike. I think he can play outside, similar to Anthony Hill. I think he could play off the edge. I see a guy that's going to be 6'3", 2'6", 2.5, 6'3", about 245, 250. He was playing about 235 this year. But I think he's behind Anthony Hill. He's the second best linebacker Texas recruited in a while. I think he's built for the SEC. He's got range. He's got physicality. And I'm going to throw one out there to you. What if Nick Townsend ends up playing linebacker? How good is this class? I'm just going to leave that there. He's probably going to play tight end. But what if Texas said, you want to rush the passer and play linebacker? How good is this class at linebacker?
Yeah, those conversations did happen in July whenever he made his his trip to Austin for that pool bash. Of course, Coach Banks was on, I believe, his honeymoon at the time, so he didn't have a say. And I think some of the coaches on the staff are like,
"Took advantage of Banksy."
Exactly. But to build on what Jerry was saying about Elijah Barnes, 240, 245, that might sound heavy at linebacker. You watch him play football, you see the senior tape, you see him run 10-9 in the 100-meter, and you say, okay, doesn't matter to me how big he gets because that athleticism is going to carry over. Really encouraging. You talk about SEC style of football in the front seven. That's Elijah Barnes at this point. And I don't want to discredit Jonathan Cunningham again because, look, that's the part of development that's so fun is you see the raw tools, you see the senior tape, you see the junior tape, and you say, okay, he's got potential. Now let's get him into the program and let's build on him. That's what Jonathan Cunningham brings to the table. Of course, Anthony Smith gained 20 pounds. Colin Simmons gained 20 pounds their first semester on campus. Let's see what he looks like by the end of spring football because I think, again, you watch the tape there, that's a fearless football player and one that's very instinctive and can fly around the ball as well.
I think that was a great evaluation by Nansen, by the way.
Really? That's where you see that? Yeah. That's good. I think they met their needs. They didn't need to oversign, but they only signed one last year.
I think they came up one short of where they wanted to. That's why I kind of threw the Townsend out there.
It makes sense.
Just as what if he plays linebacker? How good is this linebacker class? Scary good.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting because, look, I think Nick Townsend, you talked about this. He just wants to play football.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of those guys. He sounds like the way you describe him. And I asked CJ this on Wednesday. Are there any alphas in this class?
Yes.
Nick Townsend sounds a little bit like an alpha.
Yeah.
Like just let me go eat, you know? That's the alpha dog mentality. All right. Secondary, 5 in total, 2 5-stars, right? Jonah Williams and Cade Phillips, a safety out of Galveston, Jonah. Cade Phillips, a corner out of Fort Bend. Then 3 other DBs. Grayson Littleton out of the Tampa area. You have Caleb Chester out of Fort Bend Marshall, a corner. And then also Zealous Hicks, who reclassified Jerry from the class of 2026 into 2025. CJ, I'll start with you. Start with Williams and Phillips, in your opinion.
Yeah, look, 2 5-star guys, 2 lengthy, physical, big guys on the outside. That's big. And again, Jonah Williams and Zayla 6, you look at the 2 of them and what they bring together at the safety spot. That's 6'2 plus, probably 220 whenever it comes down to it. That's physical football players that can range in center field, basically. And they're instinctive. I think Zayla 6, again, having seen him in person a couple times, he gets bigger and bigger every time I've seen him. And I don't know if that's been the case with a lot of safety prospects I've seen, but it's something that I think has stood out to me each time that I've seen him on campus. Jonah Williams, we've talked about it almost endlessly, just the level of football IQ, the physical ability, just the way that he's an impact player on seemingly every single snap of the game. I don't know if Texas has signed as impactful a secondary member in all of Sarkisian's tenure here. And I was making the comparison earlier. Last 2 cycles, you got Anthony Hill in your linebacker core. You got Colin Simmons up front. And now you got Jonah Williams back deep. I mean, that's obviously the headliners in my opinion, but the 3 of those guys are just NFL ready.
All 3 of them are top 15 prospects in the country.
It's really impressive. And so to add that with Hicks, to add that with Phillips, those are, again, really highly coveted guys. This Texas secondary, who was number 1 in the country this year, you talking about bringing back DBU, to stack 5 on top of 5 from last year. That's how you do it.
Jerry, you think they address their needs? And speak a little bit about Cade Phillips, because I think that upside-wise could have the most of anybody in this class, giving his size and length and speed combination.
Yeah, no, I think they hit a home run in secondary. And I want to start by saying this. There was one period this summer that there was a point where Caleb Chester was the lone defensive back committed, and Texas fans were losing it. They're like, what's going to happen? This is bad. Where are we going to go from here? Now, on signing day, this is the best position signed in this class, in my opinion. 5 guys, 2 5-star level prospects, wherever Cade Phillips is top 35, 40 in the country. Jonah Williams. Zealous Hicks is going to be underranked because he reclassified from 26 to 25. Those kids naturally drop. he was a top 50 guy in the country in the 26 class. Grayson Littleton ranked in the top 100 in the country in a perfect nickel corner. And then you have Cade Phillips. Cade Phillips is one of the elite athletes in the country in this class. I mean, 6'2", 180, 80-inch wingspan, 10 and a quarter, 10 and a half inch hands, long jumps 24/7, qualified for state in the 200. Young kid, 17, hadn't turned 18 yet. He's got so much upside. And here's the crazy thing about this class too. Well, Hicks can't be, but Caleb Chester, midterm. Jonah Williams, midterm, will play baseball, but he'll be in the meeting rooms. Grayson Littleton, midterm. Cade Phillips, midterm. These guys get a jump start this spring on the technique portion of this with Terry Joseph and Scotty Hazelton. I think Texas hit an absolute home run in the secondary in this class at all positions. Safety, corner, and nickel. I love Caleb Chester, guys. Love him.
I got to say that 1 second, CJ, if you don't mind. I got to say this because I think it's 100% true. This summer, they were coming off a very poor performance in the secondary a year before. You look now, and they're the number 1 secondary in the country. That was a proving ground that I think brought some people around overall. I really do believe that, and allowed Texas to finish the way they did. Is it easy? No, but I think it was was it the only factor? No, but it was a contributing factor. CJ, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, you look at Grayson Littleton and the programs that recruited him, committed to Clemson, commits to Texas, and then who comes in trying to steal him late? Michigan, Clemson. They know defensive back talent. They spit out a couple of pretty good ones over the past few years as well. So something to keep an eye on. I always like looking at which schools recruit and develop which positions very well. Both of those have an eye for DB talent.
I want to add this on Caleb Chester if I can. What made this Texas secondary so high level this year? Football intelligence and communication. Caleb Chester's got it in spades. Remember that when he's underranked coming out of high school.
I want to add this. Texas did not take any specialists. No kicker, no punter in this class. No long snapper. I mean, not necessarily worried about the long snapper because I think Texas can find that. The no punter thing, I think we may wait until the portal and see if Texas goes there. And I do think that Bert Auburn is likely to return. So, all right, that's the special teams breakdown there. Defense, though, very good class. Jerry, you said maybe the best DB class in the country. Certainly the 2 interior guys on defense, elite. Both of the edges in that category as well. You got Bo Barnes, one of the top-ranked linebackers. It is a star-studded defensive class. And if you flip-flop Nick Townsend over there, it only looks prettier in that way. All right, before we let you go, I want to tell you, make sure you get your Christmas present if you want one that has On Texas Football. Shop.ontexasfootball.com. Get a hat, mug, whatever you want over at On Texas Football. It's shop.ontexasfootball.com. Thank you all for being fans and watching the show of the Texas Longhorns. Jerry and CJ, anything y'all want to finish with on the defensive side of the ball?
Best defensive class in a long time in Austin, Texas.
I totally agree.
Over a decade.
I was talking to somebody literally 4 months ago prior to the season. They're like, where are all the defensive players? Yeah. Here we go. Yeah. They're here now. That would be my answer. Still, do they want more? Yeah, we still think they need a defensive tackle in this class, right? And if not, they're going to need some in the portal.
Let's end on this. Justice Terry will announce Friday. And look, I think Georgia's been the favorite. I don't think they've been the favorite. Texas, given it their absolute all. Auburn, the same. So we'll see. Alabama in it. We'll see which way it goes. He's a 5 technique, though, that will grow into a 5/3 like Alfred Collins. But, we'll see what happens there with Justice Terry on Friday at noon. If Texas were to upset Georgia and Auburn there, and I say upset because the kid's from Manchester, Georgia. Has anybody ever been to Manchester, Georgia? Probably not. It's SEC country, and it's deep South Auburn, Georgia country. So it would be an upset. But if Texas adds Terry to this mix, it will easily be the best defensive class Texas has signed in my years covering the Horns.
Oof.
That's my opinion.
Well, I like that. All right. That's going to do it for this edition of On Texas Football, reviewing the defensive class with expert Gerry Hamilton and CJ Vogel. I'm Bobby Burton. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll have more later today. Hook 'em.